And then I'm going to go ahead and hit record and just try to max out my computer. 2 calls, recording, 2 streams, 28%. That's so good. All right, let me get the comments ready here. 16 on. Post. First comment going to be Facebook or YouTube?
Facebook.
Facebook, yeah. Unless it's a hello or something.
Hold on, I got December 2nd here. I got to.
No, it's going to be Facebook because Jeff Chappell just logged in. So here in a second, he's going to say hi, Chris.
Oh.
Oh, Ernesto Beatty. Good evening, fellas.
Well, I can't remember what I did yesterday. I don't know why this is. Okay.
Let me look here.
Maybe it just takes a second to get you.
Who do I need to follow to find the comments?
It's on Get Through News page Facebook, and then you can share it, and then you can see the
comments. Jeff must have heard us, because can he hear us?
Yeah, everybody can hear us.
Okay, because he mixed it up. He went with High Coach tonight, Mr. Chappell did. High Coach.
Probably hadn't seen him in a long time, and good to see him.
No,
I haven't seen Chappell in 7 months.
Why am I not getting comments? Drives me crazy. Oh, okay. I got to turn them on. Maybe that's. Oh, there it is.
Hi, Jeff.
There it is. Let's see if this works here.
Have you noticed, Casey, how mean Jeff Chappell's gotten as he's gotten older? He used to be so nice to people.
Not at all.
That's an old comment.
Well, yeah.
Oh boy, let me go.
I knew I was never concerned. I knew Bixby had that in the bag the whole night. I don't know why everybody's so worried.
We were in Woodward that night, and Chris was trying to talk about how Woodward had 12 or 13 returning seniors.
Oh yeah. I think I got it.
Yeah.
Now. Okay, we're good now.
They're returning doesn't mean they're all of a sudden good.
Like they all returned. With all due respect, they were crappy last year. They're still crappy this year.
Josh Seabolt.
That's Chris, a good man, Josh Seabolt.
Pushed mute, and he was like, dude, I'm just trying to build some drama here.
Well, we'll take a timeout.
Yeah, well.
Oh, that's good stuff. So are you surprised at all, Chris, about any of the signees? The early signings today?
Not necessarily. I forgot to get this part of the show, so give me just a second here.
I think you'd have to be surprised that Sullivan Wright didn't end up at Oklahoma State, and that the kid, what's his name, Texas Tech?
Pace yourself here.
Yeah, we're gonna wait.
Okay.
We're gonna get yelled at if we keep doing that, Casey.
Not yelled at.
Chris, not only do you yell at us when you're not on camera, you're a hitter. Everybody knows this.
What is that desktop? Oh, there it goes.
Hey, by the way, Phil, I haven't gotten a comment on my $20 headsets that I got today. Do they look good?
Well, they look amazing.
Yeah, okay.
I'm sure Chris is going to ridicule you, but I think they look great.
Yeah.
It has begun.
What you're saying, Casey? Glue, bounces, rubber, whatever that is. That's what Phil is right now.
I am rubber, you're glue.
Yeah, Phil, yeah.
Let me see here.
Ernesto was commented he helped us cut some trees down last Friday night.
That's good.
That graphic's
out here
ready
at Cedar
to
Valley.
go.
You know, one thing
that,
I think, what was OU's national rank on their class?
I'm sure you'll have that for us here when the show starts. Chris is going to Chris is going to let me sponsor next year if I keep saying that. Josh, your saving grace is you're watching on YouTube. You're watching on YouTube, so that's a.
Oh. So everybody that's on Facebook, Chris just ridiculed you. So 80% of you are getting ready to sign off, and I apologize.
Okay, lower third on. Now I got to make sure. Got to make sure all the graphics are working.
So isn't that all the stuff you're supposed to do before you hit stream?
See, that's what I thought. Daggone it. I can't do that. So I'm going to go back here. Well, I was making graphics and supplying you guys information. I just ran out of time.
Chris becomes an individual sport player real quick. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, here we go.
14.
By the way, my head's not perfectly centered. I'm having to kind of tilt a little bit to stay in the picture.
Well, you get where you need to be, and I'll fix you. Multi-view.
I thought I'd add one more degree of difficulty to that.
There we go.
Oh, there we go. Perfect.
Not yet.
No, you don't want to get in too close.
All right. Boom, 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 boom. Mr. Chappell thinks, does it cost to be a sponsor? Things just don't.
Well,
Phil, I'll let you take this one.
Well, I mean, I remember a day when.
You know what? Never mind.
Never
you don't
want me to take this one?
Yeah,
okay.
we'll just.
You want to let that one go?
We'll go. Yeah, it does. So.
Oh, okay.
Thank goodness.
Now, Casey, now do you see what I'm talking about with the meanness? He's gotten a little older. He's gotten a little meaner. You starting to see this a little bit?
In fact,
I've known it all along.
In fact, the sponsorships have been great this year. Actually, been tremendous.
Very loyal.
Every once in a while, Chris will call and he'll go, "Man, I went all Porter on somebody the other day." Okay, well, I'm proud of you.
Yep. I think the 3-box deal's looking good. So. Mr. Chappell wanting to know, what is a top fan? I hope Mr. Chappell's a top fan. There's a lot of top fans out there. I can't give away the scenario of what makes a top fan, but keep commenting. I bet you'll be a top fan if you're not already. We got a good show coming up. We got National Signing Day. We'll break down OU. We'll break down OSU. I don't think Tulsa had any signees from the state. I think they only had 6 in their total class, another one from the state of Oklahoma. And then we'll take a look at some of the kids that are going out of state that played high school football in Oklahoma who signed to play college football out of state. And then we'll look at some of the state championships from last week. 5A, 4A, 3A. We've got 3 state championships left this week, class 2A, A, and B. So I think that's the show for the most part.
Is B this weekend?
Yep. Alva.
Okay. At Alva.
Mm-hmm.
Shattuck and Laverne?
No, Laverne and Dewar.
Laverne and Dewar with an A.
What's the mascot for Laverne?
What's the mascot for Shattuck?
I have no idea, actually.
Shattuck's the Indians.
Well, today it is.
Oh, yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah.
until you start talking to people because you feel.
Well, I'm going to need people to be a little nicer to people that are bald. I mean, I feel slighted. I feel taken advantage of. I feel mistreated. I mean, all of you guys have nice hair. Sorry, Casey, not you. And I mean, it's not appropriate to attack somebody on their physical appearance.
Laverne Tigers.
T for Tigers.
Yeah, just guess Tigers, Panthers, Wildcats, Bulldogs, and you have about a 70% chance.
That's not true because I always go with those and I rarely get them right. I seem to find every non-tiger, bulldog, panther school out there. See, my deal is I try to make everything right. Well, I'm of an advanced age. It's just a matter of time before, nobody will hire me. And I mean,
When's the last time you worked for somebody?
That'd be the United States military a long time ago. My favorite job ever, actually, by a mile. Casey's leaning worse than I've ever leaned.
Yeah, no, my dog is needing some attention.
Oh, loving on the dog.
Half fit, half rot, and she needs attention about every 5 minutes from me, and I'm home.
You better give her attention because with those two breeds, she might eat you if you upset her. So be nice to her.
I'm trying to get myself level with you guys. Looks like. Ooh,
you're having a good hair day today, Chris.
Yeah, not bad. Somebody's. Is it me or Casey? It's not. It's just coming off just a little bit.
It's not me. My stuff's perfect.
Multiview, Chris. Oh, it's Casey that's bleeding over just a smoosh. I'm gonna go Porter real quick on this here.
Couldn't be me.
Yeah, see there.
There we go.
The twin whiteouts made it official Wednesday. Sunday. They're going to stay at the
I had to lower my camera a little bit, so I think we're all at the same height now. So there it works.
I can sit up a little bit too.
There's my daily shooting in Oklahoma City update. Every day. People are crazy.
How about, now, this isn't an Oklahoma guy. Did you see the Caleb Etienne from Butler County, the big offensive lineman?
Negative.
Here's his stat line. 6'9", 310 pounds.
Is he a running back?
Skinny. So he's skinny at 6'9". He's from Louisiana. He had offers from Oklahoma State, Arkansas, East Carolina, Hawaii, Houston, and others, but those are some of them.
And he went where?
Oklahoma State. He was at Butler County. Oh, boy. Never mind. He started at Fort Scott Junior College before moving to Butler County Community College. So he might have some might be a really good reason why he's been in JUCO for 2 years.
I just heard the dog bark, and I think everyone in Clinton just got a little bit nervous after playing the Wagner Bulldogs.
Oh, boy.
The Bulldog at Wagner, by the way, his name is Buster. Buster the Bulldog.
Buster.
Yes. Buster the Bulldog. So let me ask you this. If you're a college kid, you get an offer from – these are what I think. This is the big kid I was just talking about. O State, Arkansas.
Hold on. What position do I play?
Offensive line.
Big pretties.
Okay. Texas Tech, South Carolina, Oregon, and Ole Miss. Which school do you go to if you're an offensive lineman? Oak State, Arkansas.
Oregon or
Who's giving me a call?
For O-line?
My mom's going to need a house.
We don't do that anymore. We don't do that.
Wait,
let me find you a school.
You don't think we do, but.
Well, let me find a school that might fit into that cat. Well, Ole Miss. Is Lane Kiffin at Ole Miss?
No, he's not there anymore.
Where's he at now?
Oh, wait.
Lane Kiffin's at Ole Miss.
Ole Miss, yes. He moves around. I got confused.
Yeah, he was at USC.
He's your best shot for a car, I think Lane is.
Hugh Freeze.
Rodney, we're doing the game this weekend, so our opinions on how do we think Cashin will fare, I think they'll get a trophy this weekend. I think I'll leave it at that.
Yeah.
We'll talk about Cashin in a minute, but they'll end up playing 16 games this year. 16 games in 17 weeks. Some teams barely didn't even play 10. Here they are playing 16. 16 games this year. Crazy.
Huh.
What were you going? What I already know what you're thinking.
What? I'm being a good boy.
You are.
Yeah. Like I said, we're calling the game this weekend.
Yeah.
So. What are we waiting on, little buddy?
Well, I'm ready to go. I was just going to wait till close to 6 o'clock for all those true 6 o'clock fans out there, but we can start it early.
We probably ought to. I mean, we got a lot of people on here, and
all right.
Don't want to hold them up. I mean, Mr. Chappell's probably already signed off. Just wants you to think that he's listening.
That's fine. We got his view. He got his few comments. He's out.
Okay.
That's all good.
All
right. All right. Stand by.
Oklahoma, huddle up. It's time to go inside the High School Huddle on Hot 93.7 FM and streaming worldwide on GuthrieSportsPage.com. The High School Huddle will take you where you want to go with coaches, players, your phone calls, texts, and tweets. Join the huddle and let's talk high school sports.
It is a High School Huddle here on Guthrie News Page. So glad to have you on this Wednesday night, the final week of high school football season. Along with Phil Nichols, Casey Porter, I am Chris Evans. We have a big show for you today, as today is National Signing Day, as the Oklahoma Sooners and Oklahoma State Cowboys sign their class. There's still some few out there nationally that they're still going after, but we'll have those classes for you. We'll also take a look at the other Oklahoma high school kids who signed Division I football to play out of state as well. We're going to break down last week's state championship games, Class 5A, 4A, and 3A. Look forward to this week's state championship games in 2A, A, and B. So a lot to get to here, guys, and boy, National Signing Day. You guys, you both, you like the recruiting, following the recruiting and all that good stuff?
I like to follow the Oklahoma kids. Yeah. I like to see where they're going. And I wish we kept more of them. It seems like every year we're losing more and more kids to, and I know we're going to break this down, but Arkansas in particular, I think they had 6 Oklahoma kids signees this year. And so there's some of those kids that get away that you'd like to see stay in state, but I like to follow it. I think it's fun. Then you can follow them, for the next 4 or 5 years and see how they do. And one of the things, a kid that was highly recruited out of Carl Albert years ago went to Texas Tech, talking about
Trayvon Porter.
Trayvon, and now he's on the coaching staff at Choctaw. So we got to see him as a player in high school. Then we got to see him go play college, where he started multiple years. And now he's back coaching on the sidelines in a state championship game. So that was pretty cool. So it's fun to, I think, connect those dots and you kind of just get to follow the kids and see how they're doing.
Casey, 3 stars, 4 stars, 5 stars, Oklahoma kids, OSU.
Yeah.
How do you approach it?
But, when you have continuity like Oklahoma State's had, which you have to have at a place like Oklahoma State, to have a consistent winner year in and year out, which is the formula Mike Gundy's put together, you put together a system of not necessarily stars and rankings, but you put together a system of the type of athlete that fits into the schematics of the way that you do things, the system and the way that you do things. There's only about a 25% chance that any one given recruit that you recruit actually will be a contributor as far as on the field consistently for your program, because you're talking about kids that don't make the grades. You're talking about kids that get homesick and want to go back home closer to mom and dad. And then you talk about another quarter of the kids that just simply aren't as talented as maybe you thought they were when you evaluated them. So I think when you stay closer to home, you have a better idea of the type of fit they would be for your program. So this is a big year in state for recruiting for Oklahoma kids. And it kind of reminds me of why Oklahoma State really needs OU to be really good in football for OSU to be better. And that is because the better Oklahoma is, the more local recruits there's going to be available for OSU to get. If OU, like say in the mid 90s, that's the worst case scenario for OSU recruiting, because now OU's dipping into that high 3-star, the .886 type kid like Dominique Stevens, for instance. And now instead of getting that kid, OSU's having to dip down a level below that. So I think OU's recent success and the way that they're recruiting specifically nationally definitely benefited Oklahoma State in-state. And then kind of the trickle down to that is that OSU struggled enough lately to where, and Arkansas as well, that they've taken all of the in-state kids away from Tulsa. So I think Tulsa now needs Arkansas to get really good, where they can recruit more on a national basis, where they're not plucking the Tulsa, Washington kids. I know there was a kid from Wagner going to Texas Tech. And so I think with Arkansas now making a resurgence, but still not good enough to recruit on a national level, the recruiting strategy that Mike Gundy has put in place, I think that's hurt Tulsa the most this year in-state. So I think this is a fantastic in-state year for recruiting. I think OSU made a good haul with 3 or 4 particular players that they really need. A really good wide receiver from Norman, 2 really good linebackers, a couple of really good offensive linemen, and then, of course, Oklahoma had the fantastic recruiting class as well.
Yeah, and we're about to break those down here in just a second for each school as well as out-of-state. But, Phil, we'll break down this list here in just a little bit. But we saw so many great Oklahoma high schools players this year, and a lot of them obviously not able to play Division I football. It just shows you how there's a handful of Division I kids that come out of the state of Oklahoma. It's a good high school football season compared to others. It's not great, but it's still a good high school football season. And there's players like Luke Tarman will not be on the list for OU or OSU, but there's so many good kids out in high school football. We've seen a lot of them over the last several weeks and over the season.
Well, and I think this is probably going to offend a few people, but I think that's why it's important to help your kids have realistic expectations on where they can end up playing. I think, if you play football or baseball or basketball or soccer or any sport you play, if you're really competitive, then it's natural at some point in your life to say, man, I'd really like to go play big time college sports in my chosen sport. But if you're 5'10" and you weigh $180 and you're a junior and a senior and you play linebacker, you're not going to play Division I football. I mean, it's not going to happen. If you're 5'11" and you're 195, 200 pounds and you play tight end in high school, you're not going to play Division I football at that position. I mean, it's not going to happen. And so I think one thing that National Signing Day always makes me remember is I wish we would help kids better understand that I know everybody wants to go D1. When you're a 13-year-old kid, that's all you talk about. But at some point, you got to get realistic with yourself and realize if there's cats out there like Luke Tarman, who was the best player in 5A this year, that got 0 Division I offers, right? And he was the best player in 5A. And he's 6 foot, 6'1", 185 pounds. It's tough to get an offer at the D1 level. And so, hopefully kids will be realistic. But I got to say this, we're going to break it down. As a guy that is rooted for the team in Stillwater for a long time, I'm sick and tired of finishing 36th in the recruiting class, 46th in the recruiting class. I mean, it's getting old because until we can go out and get better Jimmies and Joes, it's awful tough to compete at the highest level. And so I think OSU had a good in-state recruiting class, but again, they find themselves around 40 in the country again in recruiting class and third in the Big 12. They seem to always finish third or fourth in the Big 12. With Iowa State coming up, I think if O State doesn't do some things differently, and I think it's going to be tougher for Mike Gundy to recruit off the field stuff this year than it was previously. I'm not saying I agree with it or I disagree with it. I'm just simply saying it's going to be tougher to go into some of these areas of the country and recruit effectively because I think there was some tarnish put on Gundy's cape on the off season. So, it's if you're an O State fan, I think you're happy with the in-state recruits, but I think you're disappointed overall in where we fell again, kind of middle of the road in Division I, and that's not good.
And just to finish off real quick, Phil, you mentioned Luke Tarman, another great quarterback in 5A football. Ben Harris, who would be a candidate for 5A Player of the Year as well. He would get some first-place votes, but Ben Harris won 52 high school football games, 4 state championships. Now, he hasn't probably not going to play football. His career is probably in baseball, but that just shows you can have all the stats and numbers and all that stuff, but what a career. We're talking about Ben Harris and Carl right here in a little bit, but let's go ahead and take a look at the University of Oklahoma signing. Again, we're taking a look at Oklahoma high school prospects that come out of the state of Oklahoma and the Sooners. And Casey, you alluded to it a little bit earlier, the Sooners going a little bit more national, more so than years past, but Oklahoma signed Ethan Downs and Jordan Mukes, Weatherford High School for Ethan and Jordan Mukes for Choctaw. But Phil, you were able to see both of these players. Give us your initial thoughts on Ethan Downs and Jordan Mukes.
Well, the thing that jumps off the board with Ethan Downs is he's a big kid. He's 6'4", 6'5", 240, 245 pounds, coming out of high school, and he's real athletic. Chris, if you remember last year when we called that state championship game with them, he's got about size 18 feet. So, I mean, he's going to be, my point is he's really long, and I think he could get even bigger. I don't think the kid's necessarily done growing, but a real athletic kid. I don't know where he was ranked in the state. I think he was 7th in the state, according to some places. Had offers from Penn State, LSU. I mean, all the big schools he had offers from, and chose to stay in the state of Oklahoma. And I think he'll be a heck of a player for OU if he continues to put on weight and get bigger. But he's definitely coming out of high school a great get for the Sooners, no doubt about it. And the Mukes kid, we saw him against Bixby, extremely athletic. There was a couple plays where Presley breaks away and he can fly.
Yeah.
And you're going, okay, here's golden goalpost. And the Mukes kid took the perfect angle. That coupled with his speed, he was able to keep Presley out of the end zone on 2 different long runs. I mean, the kid's, he's got a high, if you know how to take the right angles and just watching him, he's got a real high football IQ. He's very physical. He's big. He's long. I think he's a guy that'll be a player for OU, and it'll be a multi-year starter, and the sky's the limit for him.
Yeah, I think eventually, for Mukes, I think he might move over to the safety spot. They got to put a lot of weight on him and some muscles on him, but I don't think he'll make an immediate impression at University of Oklahoma. But over the years, it's definitely a name we can definitely hear in the defensive backfield.
I think he's a kid to be like a redshirt sophomore, might get into the starting lineup as a redshirt sophomore, but he's so big framed. If you recall, I mean, he's a huge framed kid.
Mm-hmm. Long arms.
It's not out of the possibility he gets in there and he really takes to the weights and the training table. I don't think it's out of the possibility that kid might end up playing outside linebacker at OU. I mean, because he's big, fast, he's got a good football IQ. I mean, I think he can do a lot of things. So a lot of it's going to depend on what his body ends up looking like, but he's a legit player, no doubt about it.
Casey, your thoughts on the Sooners? Again, you kind of mentioned earlier, the Sooners going more nationals. Again, only 2 in-state kids at this time, and the Sooners class, again, one of the top ones in the nation. They got a few players they're still waiting on here. One of the top running backs in the nation still hasn't committed. So, but as far as Oklahoma players, it looks like the 2 and done for the Sooners.
Yeah, and to kind of piggyback off of Phil's comment a minute ago, not only if you have aspirations of your kid being a Division I athlete, I think what this recruiting class for OU this year showed, if you have aspirations of your kid being recruited by OU, you better be pretty realistic in terms of how good they have to be to go to OU. And I will say this, and I say this as an Oklahoma State fan, and I agree with you, Phil. I am not happy where the Oklahoma State recruiting is at. There has been too large of an investment made in football to be finishing in the 35s and the 40s. And if you look at, and not just being in the 35 or 40s, Phil, look at the teams that are finishing ahead of OSU, the Illinois of the world and the Cincinnatis. In places like that, there's no reason for places like that to recruit better than Oklahoma State. Now, having said that, I will say this. I do think this strategy for OU, specifically Lincoln Riley, has some pitfalls to it. I think you have to be careful if you're OU, because I think Oklahoma State and now Texas Tech, as we see them pluck a kid or two from Oklahoma, Baylor plucks some kids, Arkansas, you're now developing a region of teams that are full of kids on their roster that really the only thing that they want to do in the world is beat OU because they were snubbed by OU. So not only do these kids want to beat OU for the fact that they're OU, they want to beat OU because they weren't recruited by OU. Kind of like when a kid from Baylor plays the University of Texas. Does that make sense to you? So although it's a great thing that for OU that they're able to recruit nationally, I do think it is a mistake not to recruit locally more than they are. I could be wrong. I think we'll see how that goes. But that's a situation to where I will be interested to see how that plays out in the coming years.
All I'll say to that case is it sure hasn't bared to be true yet. You still got to go play, because OSU's beat OU how many times in the series?
Yeah.
Is it even at 20
well,
yet?
less under Gundy than the actual series itself.
I mean, but my point is that OU, because of their success, because of their name, because of their brand, because they've had three guys that play quarterback that were either won the Heisman or were a Heisman finalist in a row. Now you got a kid at quarterback that's going to be there eventually. I mean, he's going to be a Heisman finalist if he doesn't win. But my point is this: they don't have to recruit in Oklahoma.
Yeah,
they can go get the best. They can go get the best players out of Texas, the best players out of Florida, the best players out of California. OSU can't do that. And
I agree.
So,
what I'm trying to say is instead of – I'm sorry. Go ahead, Phil.
No. I think it's the difference between – and this is coming from an O-State guy, okay? Yeah. I think it's the difference between – I mean, listen – the college football coaches and their staff's first job is recruiting. That's their first job. You got to get them on campus before you got to get them on campus. If you can't get them on campus, it doesn't matter. And I think there's a lot of frustration felt by a lot of people in Cowboy Nation out there that finishing third or fourth every year isn't good enough in the Big 12. Yeah. And I think until OSU can go out and recruit some of those more great out-of-state kids, I mean, I think that's where we're going to be.
I think what I'm trying to say is instead of focusing on the times that OSU didn't beat OU, which is 93% of the time because OU's better than OSU almost every year, if you look at the times where OSU was able to beat OU, look at the roster and how it was comprised. Rashawn Woods, Billy Badgema, Josh Fields, Brandon Whedon, Justin Blackman, Tracy Moore, Badgema, all of those guys that were snubbed by OU, that whenever they had a team that was good enough to beat OU, not only do they want to beat OU because they were OU, but they wanted to beat OU because they got snubbed by that university. So that's kind of the angle I'm looking at. And let me say this about Oklahoma State recruiting. I'm not saying I agree with it, but here is the pivot that Mike Gundy made about 7 or 8 years ago. He was going after the 4 or 5 star recruits, Herschel Sims, Nick Starkel, the kid that ended up going to Texas A&M. There were 3 or 4, the Ronald Jones that ended up going to USC. And OSU was landing some of these 4 or 5 star recruits. Dexter Pratt, if you remember him. And then what was happening is at the last minute, OU, USC, all of these schools were coming in and swiping these players out from underneath them literally the night before the recruiting class was set to be put in paper. And so then OSU was left with no other options other than to go get high or low 2-star players. So what Mike Gundy's done, instead of going after those guys that even if you get them to commit, you don't even know if they're going to sign the day that they're supposed to sign, he's gone after the solid to high 3-star kids that he knows if he gets them committed, that they will come to campus. They're not going to pull the rug out at the end of the day. And what he also thinks, and he's done this from time to time, the difference between a 3-star kid and a 4-star kid is that a 4-star kid, as you mentioned, will probably get to play for 3 years. A 2-star kid like Cole Walterscheid from Munster, Texas, ended up being a 4-star player, but for only 1 year of his career. It took him 4 years of college training to become a 4-star player. Whereas if you get a 4-star out of high school, they're more ready to go, and you're going to get 3 or 4 years of 4-star production out of them. So the way that Mike Gundy is recruiting is going to give you a chance every 3 or 4 years to develop a group into 4-star players through your training, have that one shot like this year was supposed to be to win it, and then rebuild. Whereas the way that OU is able to do it, you're able to reload every year.
Let's go ahead and take a look.
That's my whole, just to finish it up, though, that's my whole point, though. They take a shot at it. They're not getting it done. And I think people are getting frustrated with that.
Right. I agree.
Well, let's take a look at the signing class for the Oklahoma State Cowboys for as far as in-state players are concerned. And top of the list there, Jaden Bray, wide receiver out of Norman High School. So the Cowboys go into Norman once again and get a player there. Jaden Bray. Aiden Kelly, someone we'll be talking about here in a little bit, from Thomas High School, defensive lineman. Logan Nobles, offensive lineman from Jenks High School. Colin Oliver, Phil will have a lot to say about him here in a little bit, defensive lineman at Edmond Santa Fe. Mikhail Smith, defensive back from Midwest City High School. Donovan Stevens, not too far, at Dell City High School, both on the defensive side. Logan Ward, it will be a walk-on, but they were really wanting him as their kicking duties. And then finally, Ty Williams, a defensive back out of Muskogee High School, a player that got hurt early on in the season, Phil, and really get to see him play throughout the year. And Muskogee did not win a football game, and you would certainly think if Ty Williams was playing this year, there would have been a few more wins in Muskogee. But nonetheless, those are the players in-state for the Oklahoma State Cowboys.
Yeah, and I think, you look at the class from top to bottom as far as the in-state kids, which is what we're looking at here. I think they went out and got kids that they need. You got this Bray kid out of Norman, I think is a sleeper that could be a phenomenal. He's a big kid. He's 6'3", 190, 195, had a lot of offers from a lot of big-time programs. I think it also the fact that he's in Norman and he's going to OSU. OU didn't even really recruit him. Now, there could be a variety of reasons for that. Maybe everybody knows he has no interest in going to Norman. He wants to get out of town and, go away. It could also be that OU's so stacked at wide receiver right now, they didn't offer him. Who knows? But he's an outstanding prospect. The kid from Thomas, I'm going to let you break him down a little bit more because when we talk about the Thomas Cashin matchup coming up, we saw the Nobles kid 2 weeks ago or a week and a half ago when Jenks played Edmond Santa Fe in the finals. Big kid, what you would expect. The Oliver kid is in my opinion, is the best signee they've got in this class. I think he's got a ton. We saw him be double teamed the entire day against a very, very good Jenks team, including a Jenks offensive line that has a kid that's going to OSU, the Nobles kid. He was double teamed all day and still had 12, 13 tackles on the day. He's a big physical athletic kid. I think he's the class of their signing class. The Smith kid, don't know a lot about him. I want to let Casey kind of break him down a little bit more, but anybody that's coming out of Midwest City High School, the defensive back, OSU needed to go get a couple defensive backs, and they did that between the Williams kid and the Smith kid. I think the Williams kid probably would grade out a little higher at the defensive back position. And the Williams kid, if you talk to Keaton Collins, who coached the Williams kid, he was on the staff at Muskogee. I said, how does he compare to some of the guys that I know? And he just looked at me and grinned and said, he's special. Yeah. he's the real deal because he's comparing him to guys, around here, the way I asked him to, like Kai Staley, and who was also on the staff then, who spoke highly of the Williams kid, Josh King. We've had some great defensive backs over the years that Keaton played with. And I think he would put the Williams kid at the highest level of any of those guys. So, in-state, like Casey said, I think it was a really solid, good recruiting class. In-state, it's better than OU, obviously, in-state. But I think that's more of I think that's more because OSU needs to recruit in-state. And I don't want to offend a bunch of my friends. I love Oklahoma high school football as much as anybody out there. But the truth is if you're getting a bulk of your recruits from from in-state, when you're signing 8 kids like we did today, usually means you're not going out and getting some of the kids you wanted in other areas of the country also. Because Oklahoma high school football is not at the level, obviously, of Texas or Florida or California or, there's a lot, Pennsylvania. There's a lot of states out there, Georgia. There are other states, Louisiana. So we're just not at that level. And what I mean by that isn't that we don't have some great high school football players. We do. We just don't have the number of great high school football players those other states have, simply because of population and just numbers. But a really good class for Oklahoma State. I think it's kind of what you expected. We got to remember too, Gunnar Gundy, while he was a senior last year, he's going to be coming in with this freshman class. So he's going to actually be coming in with this class because he took a year off of college. He's been working with personal trainers and coaches this COVID year. But he technically will be he will be a freshman with these group of kids coming in. So they do have a quarterback as well coming in who's a very good high school quarterback. We'll see what kind of development he had this year, where that ends up taking him. But, there is a quarterback in that class as well.
Casey, your thoughts on the Cowboys?
Yeah, the cornerback from Midwest City, Mikhail Smith, that his name? Yeah, Mikhail Smith. He intrigues me. I've seen him 2 or 3 times, and what intrigues me about him is the way that Jim Knowles has transitioned into that LSU defense. I don't want to get geeky in how they run it, but it's basically man coverage for cornerbacks. And so what they've transitioned to, if you look at OSU corners, Rodarius Williams, A.J. Green, Christian Holmes, the transfer from Missouri this year, the grad transfer, and now Mikhail Smith, they're looking at cornerbacks that basically fit a profile. This kid fits all of them. He's 6 foot. He's 195 pounds. He flips his hips. He knows how to run. He's a ball-hawking corner. This is the type of kid, again, that Oklahoma State does such a good job of not looking at recruiting stars. I think he's like a composite 84, which is middle-of-the-road 3-star, nothing to be excited about, unless you really fit the skills that this kid brings to what Oklahoma State is doing defensively with their corners, and realizing that this kid absolutely fits the bill. And then the other kid that I'm super excited about is the Del City kid that I think he's listed as a outside linebacker, maybe, Donovan Stevens. He reminds me of Malcolm Rodriguez in that type of, okay, what are you going to do with him when you get him on campus? Are you going to slender him up and make him one of those half players, that kind of star player where he's half run, half pass? Are you going to make him a full-time box linebacker? Are you going to make him a long and lanky safety in the form of say, a Daytwan Lowe? I think a Dominique Stevens type kid is the exact kind of kid that Oklahoma State needs, because he can fill a need in 2 or 3 different places on a defense as far as what you want to turn him into. So very excited about those 2 young men. And I know, Phil, you're very, very high on the Edmond Santa Fe linebacker. I've seen him a couple of times. I still think that there's a chance that he could end up being a defensive end type player.
That could be.
He's going to be an in-the-box linebacker. But again,
I think it depends. It depends on what his body does, right? That's the caveat you got to put on all these kids. Just like the young man you're talking about right now from Del City, he's 6 foot 205, which really means he's 5'11", 195, and so he's, what does he do physically? What's he going to do physically?
To me,
the Mikhail Smith kid. Yeah, and that could be. That absolutely could be. But the Smith kid you're talking about, I know you say he's 190. Everywhere I'm looking has him listed at 165. Now, I'm not saying that. They could all be wrong. I haven't seen the kid. But even if he is 165 at corner, the big thing is he's 6 foot tall. And if you're 6 foot tall or taller at corner, that's a big corner, right?
He's going to play at 200 pounds at OSU.
Correct. He'll be at 200 pounds at OSU, no doubt. 195, 200
and
pounds.
Probably 6 foot and a half.
Yeah. So, and he can run, obviously. So there's so many of these guys, unless you're a guy like the like the Downs kid that's going to OU that's 6'4", 6'5", 2 you know what he is. He's a defensive end.
Yeah.
He's going to be a defensive end in college football.
Correct.
But these kids that are tweeners, that come out and they're 6 foot, 6'1", 205, 195.
Those are the kids OSU gets.
Well, think about it. Kentrell Brothers from Guthrie. Kentrell was 6 foot tall and weighed about 205 pounds when he came out of high school. And bingo, bango, he's 6 foot tall and he weighs about 250 pounds, by the time he's out of Missouri. So, I mean, you just don't know.
I will say this, Kentrell would be at OSU right now. OSU is recruiting at a higher level when Kentrell came out. He would be at Oklahoma State right now. Do you agree with that?
Yeah.
Well,
I don't know.
If you had to do it again.
Yeah, those are the those are the classes for the Oklahoma Sooners and the Oklahoma State Cowboys. Now, not every single player that plays in Oklahoma go to those schools. And let's take a look at some of those players that did sneak out of state here, high school students. Kendall Daniels, many believe, is the number one player out of the state of Oklahoma. Beggs High School at the Fighting Ryan Cottings, going to Texas A&M. Bryce Drummond, the quarterback that made the Pawhuska to the state semifinals, eventually losing to Cash, and he's headed to North Texas. A.J. Green, the great running back at Tulsa Union, is going to Arkansas. We'll hear Arkansas a few times here. Kevin Green, defensive lineman from Dale City, North Texas. Javion Hunt, the running back at Carl Albert, going to Arkansas. Chase Jackson, wide receiver, headed to TCU. He's the Choctaw wide receiver. Cameron Little, listed as the number one kicker in the nation in Southmore, Oklahoma. But Cameron Little didn't even play. His football coach asked him to come out. He was a soccer player. 2 years later, he's the number one kicker in the nation. But he's headed to Arkansas. Jeff Nwanko, wide receiver, Pup North, has headed to Tulane. Kewan Parker, defensive back from Tulsa, Washington, headed to Arkansas. Isaac Smith, defensive lineman from Wagner, the 4A state champions, going to Texas Tech. Bryce Stevens, wide receiver from John Marshall, is signed with Arkansas. Melvin Swindle, defensive lineman from Heritage Hall, signed with Eastern Michigan. Rajon Tatum, the linebacker at Dell City, headed to Boise State. Good recruiting there. Tevin Williams, defensive back from Stillwater, he sneaks out of Payne County, headed to Baylor. And then Solomon Wright, defensive lineman from Vian, who played in the state championship a year ago, headed to Arkansas. And Casey, your initial thoughts on the Oklahoma kids headed out of state?
Yeah, obviously, if you look at the last two on that list, those are the two most disappointing. Tevin Williams has been nothing but an absolute multi-sport stud at Stillwater High School, right down the road from Oklahoma State, and he's slipping away to Baylor. Now, it's not unprecedented that Stillwater High School graduates end up going to Baylor to play football. If you remember John Martin in the mid-'90s, his dad Dave Martin was the associate AD for several years at Oklahoma State. His boy John played receiver at Baylor, so it's not unprecedented, but certainly very, very disappointing that Devin Williams is not going to play for Oklahoma State. And then Solomon Wright, the son of Kenyatta Wright, who is such a fantastic linebacker at Oklahoma State from Vian, Oklahoma, going to Arkansas. And it's not like these guys are going to Division III schools. These kids are good enough to play at OSU. No doubt about it. If you're good enough to play at Baylor, if you're good enough to play at Arkansas, you are good enough to play at Oklahoma State. And Phil, I know you're going to fill in a lot of the dots with the Wagner kid and with Malcolm Rodriguez and the amount of success that he's had at Oklahoma State from Wagner. Isaac Smith's the kid's name. Disappointing to me that Oklahoma State allowed him to get away. Disappointing to me that when you look at that list, Oklahoma State has allowed Arkansas to invade Tulsa and really eastern Oklahoma, for that matter, as much as they had. I've had a chance to see Kendall Daniels from Beggs. He's one of those kids that fit the profile. I mean, I think we'll have to wait and see. It's a big step from Beggs to Texas A&M and SEC football. I think there's some things that are going to have to translate positively for him to have success at A&M, certainly immediately. Bryce Drummond, big kid. He looks like Ben Roethlisberger on a football field. He's able to run just enough to scramble around to throw the ball. A good arm, I wouldn't say just an absolute rocket for an arm, but a good enough arm North Texas, I think, is probably a pretty good fit for him. And Javion Hunt from Carl Albert obviously didn't get a lot of the headlines from Carl Albert because you have Kentrell Bazell, you have Ben Harris, you have Colby Cruz, and you have all of these guys. Number 9, the receiver,
Curry.
I'm forgetting his last, Lamarion Curry. Yeah, you have all these guys that are tremendous football players, and then all of a sudden you forget that Javion Hunt is getting recruited to go to Arkansas to play defense, a position that side of the ball that he didn't even play in high school. So very disappointed that Oklahoma State allowed Arkansas such inroads in the Tulsa area, because those are the kids that Oklahoma State needs.
And you look at field transition real quick. Kendall Daniels, arguably the number 1 player out of Oklahoma, a defensive player going to Texas A&M. Yeah. The last player that kind of comes to my mind was Dax Hill, the Booker T. Washington number 1 player in the state of Oklahoma, going to Michigan. So the top defensive player, top Oklahoma player going out of state.
Well, I will say this. Before I jump into this, I got to address one of our favorite Blue Jays for all 3 of us, Keaton Collins. Keaton. Yeah. We didn't forget about Ty Williams, believe me. We just talked about it. You just joined the show late. We spent a lot of time talking about Ty Williams. So Ty was definitely discussed. I shared our conversation about you telling me that he's the real deal, and we think he's going to be a big-time player at OSU. But saying that, I have a little more belief in the Daniels kid than Casey does. I think he is any scouting service you look at has Daniels ranked the number 1 player in the state of Oklahoma. Mm-hmm. He's in every scouting service out there. They have him ranked 1 through 5 at safety in the entire nation. He's got offers from A&M, Alabama, Auburn, Baylor, Clemson, LSU, the who's who of college football programs. I'm going to put my trust that those cats see a kid that's 6'4", weighs 190 pounds, and runs about a 4.4, 5.40, that they know what they're talking about. Now, there are those off the field things. There are those classroom things. There's moving away from home things. There's all kinds of things that play into it that could impact his ability on the field. And I think that's what Casey was really getting to. And I think things have to translate there. I get it. Beggs is a small school. But I could tell you from watching us getting to call the state championship games and being a part of the production of all the games the last 2 years here in Oklahoma, for every class with the exception of Class B. Yeah. What has really stood out to me is the people I thought I was going to be most impressed with, the big school kids, aren't the ones I'm most impressed with. I mean, the ones I'm most impressed with are the kids from the Wagners, the Beggs type schools, the Vians, those kids. There are big time football players playing in these small town schools that I think once they get over there, they're so athletic and they're so big and physical. The speed of the game's not going to overwhelm them, especially at a position like safety. I think that's a position that he'll be able to go in there and contribute early. I think, just like the kid from Booker T last year that went to Michigan that Chris was just referring to, the guy's playing as a true freshman, at Michigan. Now, I know Michigan's down this year, but boys, it's still Michigan and it's still the Big Ten. And, if you pick Texas A&M, a guy like Jimbo Fisher signs off on giving you a scholarship, you could play a little foosball, right? So, I think he's going to be a superstar. I will say, Chris, can you pop the list back up real quick for me?
Yeah.
I want to. I will say this, and it's going to sound like I'm going after this kid. I think the Javion Hunt kid, I'm surprised that he's going to an SEC school, to be quite honest, just my own personal opinion. I think, we've watched him a lot over the years, very, very good high school football player, but I think I've seen a lot of other people that I was much more impressed with. Definitely the kid out of Stillwater. We don't see his name anywhere on any list. All he did was run for what? 40,000 yards. Quantrell Walker. And my question is why is he not on here? Now, there could be a lot of reasons for that. Maybe he's going to need to go the JUCO route maybe he's going to need to go the JUCO route for a little bit. I think Quantrell's only 5'8", 5'7", 5'8". That's probably it. There was a guy out of Wichita, Kansas, who was about 5'8", that turned out to be pretty good. His name was Barry Sanders. So the measurables aren't always right, and by no means am I saying that Quantrell Walker is going to be Barry Sanders, but what I am simply saying is sometimes this isn't an exact science, and you can put up these massive numbers. Go back to what we talked about to start the show. You can put up these massive, unbelievable, gaudy numbers and do it for 4 years. The kid ran for 1,500 yards at least every year of his high school career. Just a freak of nature. Nowhere on early signing day, and to be quite honest, I've seen him have no real Division I offers. So
why isn't he going to Tulsa?
Well, you got to offer him before you can go there.
I know, but I mean, why would they not want that kid?
Well, that's what I'm saying. It might be a deal where the young man needs to go the route of JUCO for whatever reason for a year or two. I mean, who knows? I mean, there could be a variety of reasons, but I think when you look at the quality of the kids that got away, the Williams kid, I agree with at Baylor. The Smith kid, Isaac Smith, he is a 6'6", 240, played at Coweta, then for his freshman, sophomore year, then he went to Wagner his junior, senior year. He not only does he look the part on the hoof, he looks the part when the whistle blows. I mean, he's a player. Chris, I know that you remember him from this past weekend. If he wasn't making a tackle, he was disrupting everything in the backfield, or he was putting pressure on the quarterback, flushing people out. I mean, he's a force to be reckoned with. When you're 6'6" and you're athletic and you play defensive end, you're going to get a lot of offers, and you're going to have an opportunity to be a player. Still comes down to does he fill out his body? There's no reason why he shouldn't. He'll probably be a kid that's 6'6", 265, 270, and can still run. And he probably end up being a heck of a ball player for Texas Tech.
Yep, that is this was the longest segment in history, but it is National Signing Day, and all good things. So we'll make this a separate podcast coming up here when we get off the air and all that good stuff. So that is that's the quick recap there. Coming up here after we hear from our sponsors, we're going to come back and take a look at the state championship games from last week as we have new champion. Kind of new champions, but we'll talk about that. And also coming up a little bit later on, we will take a look at the final 3 games of the high school football season. But before we do that, a big thank you to our title sponsor, Generations Church. Love God, love people, serve both well. Check them out at generationsguthrie.com. Also on their Facebook page, they stream their service. So if you don't want to be indoors or service, you can always check them out on Facebook, 10 a.m. Sundays morning service, and check them out there. Take our time out. When we come back, we talk state championship football after this. This is the High School Huddle presented by Generations Church.
At Generations Church, we exist to love God, love people, and serve both well. We're a multi-generational, multicultural church that believes in being a light to our city and our region. At Generations, we don't believe that church can be put in a box. We're a church that accepts all people from all walks of life, young, old, rich, and poor, and you will feel welcome at Generations. Join us at 10 a.m. every Sunday at 2524 West Noble in Guthrie, America. You can also join us at generationsguthrie.online.church.
Today I'm sharing Golden Chick with the world.
Are you ready to taste Golden Chick for the first time?
100% tenderloin, that's where the golden tenders come from. Marinated for 24 hours.
It is amazing.
Then we also got the rolls, made fresh.
It feels like they were just baked.
You know why it feels that way? They were.
Every time I go, I let them get extra rolls, so I love it.
Mm-hmm. We are being kind of photobombed right now by the one and only Clucky. Have you met Clucky the chicken? Don't get too starstruck. He's just a regular guy. One taste, and you're golden. He's on Tender. That's like a chicken dating app.
Sometimes you need immediate care and can't get in to see your doctor during regular hours. With Mercy Convenient Care in Guthrie, you can walk in without an appointment and get the medical attention you need at a lower cost and with shorter waiting time than your local emergency room. The Mercy Convenient Care is located at 2919 South Division. For any concerns, call 405-282-6301. Services are provided by Mercy Hospital, Logan County. Choose Guthrie. Choose Mercy. Aspen Roofing is a family-owned roofing company with more than 20 years of experience and achievements across Oklahoma. Aspen Roofing takes pride in the personal service we provide on each job, and we strive to maintain the highest level of quality while offering our customers a reasonable price. It is our commitment to help you understand the process of getting a new roof from start to finish. Call Robbie Hudson for a free roofing estimate at 405-562-0026.
Exxon was founded by two combat-proven veterans to help businesses grow from mediocre to exceptional. We know from experience that your culture and trust throughout the organization drive superior performance. Most business owners focus on the urgent rather than the important. They are just struggling to survive. The team at Exxon helps owners identify challenges, build solutions, and focus on growth. Do you trust your team? Does your team trust you? If not, we can help. We are Exxon.
Hey, you in the third row. Yes, you. When was your last dental checkup? Dr. Louis Turney and his staff provide dental care in a fun, relaxing environment. Still not convinced? Prefer to sleep through your appointment? No problem. We can do that too. Our staff can ensure you have a relaxing experience no matter what. Got kids? Hey, so do we. Come see what all the moms are talking about. Our kid-friendly staff loves to provide care to even the tiniest of teeth. Give us a call today. We've got the whole family covered.
Give Dr. Louis Turney a call at 282-7600.
For centuries, it was a windswept prairie until the run of '89 saw settlers scramble for land and life in a newborn town as Oklahoma's territorial capital, Guthrie. Bank First is loyal to the preservation movement that reclaimed Oklahoma's first state capital. And we're loyal to the banking legacy born at the corner of First and Oklahoma streets. Bank First. Loyal to Oklahoma. Loyal to you.
Welcome back to the High School Huddle. Join the huddle yourself and let us know your thoughts by calling our toll-free number at 1-800-897-3678 or simply tweet us by using the hashtag OKHSHuddle. Now let's get back in the huddle and talk high school sports.
It is the High School Huddle here on a Wednesday night, final edition of the High School Huddle. It seems like we just got started and then it took forever. And now it's really going fast here as we hit the postseason here in Oklahoma High School football alongside Casey Porter, Phil Nichols. I am Chris Evans. Welcome once again as we had 3 state championships over the weekend. Got 3 more coming up. And go ahead and take a look at the state champions right now. We still got those 3 left, but 6A1 state champions Jinx. Bixby 6A2 state champions. By the way, Jinx won their 17th state championship with that. And then you look at Bixby, who the 6A2 state champions. They have won now 6 state championships in their school history, all those coming in the last 7 seasons. Carl Albert Titans, we'll talk to them about them here in a little bit. They won their 16th state title, 5th in a row. The Wagner Bulldogs, your Class 4A state champions, they have now won 5 in school history, all 5 of those in the last 10 years. Holland Hall joined the OSSA a few years back, and they captured their first ever football state championship. And then in Class C, the Tyrone High School won in their second ever state championship this past weekend. Their other state championship came back in 1960 as everyone expected Tyrone and Timberlake in that state championship game, and that's exactly what happened. Tyrone won that game 41-20, and bring in Phil and Casey here real quick. And really, when you let's work our way from 3A, 4A up to 5A. When you look at 3A, Holland Hall victorious over Lincoln Christian 35-7. Holland Hall had a 21-7 lead at halftime, added a couple more touchdowns in the second half. But really, you look at Holland Hall, and we'll talk about their defense, and the big guy up front there, Phil. But Lincoln Christian, 123 yards of total offense, only 10 passing, as it was really you can kind of tell at the beginning of the Holland Hall Lincoln Christian that this might be a one-sided contest.
Yeah, I mean, you were 3 or 4 minutes into the game in the first quarter, like you're saying, and you're kind of looking at each other going, this could get out of control pretty quick. And because they really were just outmanned. But the kid that blew me away, and I'm sitting there, the quarterback, going to OU on a baseball scholarship, and I'm sitting there trying to remember his name, Chris. I'm drawing a complete blank, but he threw Wallace Clark threw some absolute darts. I mean, the kid is a phenomenal athlete, and they had some receivers that flat went out and got it too. I mean, there were some great catches. One of the more, it wasn't a close ball game. It was never one of those games where you thought, oh, geez, Holland Hall's going to, I mean, you never had those thoughts ever.
Yeah.
I mean, it just never felt that way. I think Holland Hall would compete very well in larger class ball. I think when it comes to the elite teams, I think we put way too much emphasis in what the number is before the A when we're looking at it. I think people see anything below
6A1, I would agree, yeah.
I think even 6A1. I mean, I'm going to tell you right now, we sat there and did the game. Bixby they did beat them, but Bixby would win 6A1 state title this year. They would win it. So 6A2, 6A1, I think the best football teams is Bixby. I'm not so sure that Choctaw wouldn't have something to say in 6A2 this year. And next year, they've got a lot of kids coming back. But my point is, these smaller schools, as Holland Hall, they've got legitimate, big-time athletes on the field playing in those games. It's not the weak and the meek. I mean, in these smaller classification, the elite programs, they can flat out play.
Wallace Clark, 15 of 23 passing through for 3 touchdowns. One of those receivers that you were talking about, Phil, Mark Goolsby, 5 catches, 130 yards. As 3 different receivers had a touchdown in that ball game. As you mentioned, Holland Hall had really no problem in that contest. Again, taking down Lincoln Christian. Final score there, 35-7. Holland Hall perfect, 13-0 on the year. As Lincoln Christian suffered their first loss, they finished 11-1 on the season. Real quick, Lincoln Christian, they're the Bulldogs. It just doesn't. Lincoln Christian Bulldogs, to me, it just doesn't. It needs
to be the Lincoln Christian Lancelot or
Crusaders,
Crusaders or
Saints,
Bulldogs.
Yeah. So congratulations once again to Holland Hall. They had won another state title before they became a member of the OSSAA. I can't remember the name of that league, but their first OSSA state title. Class 4A football game, Wagner Bulldogs take down Clinton 42-13. This was another game that we thought that could get out of hand, and really Wagner had their imprint early on this ball game as Wagner goes a perfect 14-0 on the year. Clinton did a great job of getting there. They had the great win over Blanchard the week before, 10-7, a really defensive battle there. But Wagner's another team that you were just talking about, Holland Hall moving up. Wagner is another team that would compete in Class 5A. Now, this was a senior-heavy Wagner football team, and yes. Wagner, again, 5th state titles in 10 years. Coach Conley does a great job up there, but this Wagner team would have competed well in Class 5A football.
Well, I told you after the Wagner game, and we could say this because we had seen the 2 5A teams, to nauseum over the last decade or two. I mean, because they happen to be in the same district as our Guthrie Blue Jays, obviously. But I told you, I think Wagner had a better chance of beating Carl Albert than Bishop McGinnis. And for this club this year, I'm not saying over, the last, 5, 6, 7 years, but Wagner would be, in my opinion, 1, 2, or 3 every year in 5A right now.
Yeah.
And really they would be 1 or 2 in my opinion. I mean, they're extremely good. And so, we've talked about this. I'm not so sure 4A football isn't better than 5A football.
Up and down.
With all due respect, up and down.
Across the board.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. Across the board. I think 4A football is much more competitive than 5A football. I don't even think it's really that close.
Well, Wagner, I'll say this, you mentioned them moving up to, and it'd be interesting to watch them playing the elite teams of 5A. I do know that they outscored going into the game last weekend. Their opponents 547 to, I believe, like 28, something like that. They played one close game on the year, and the rest of them. I think the Clinton game this last weekend was the 3rd closest game that Wagner's played all year. I don't quote me on that, but I'm pretty sure that's at least close to accurate.
Yeah.
That goes to show you how dominant Wagner is.
I think the closest game I do believe was a quarterfinal game against a very good total football team. Year in, year out, it's one of those 4A Blue Bloods, but Wagner won that quarterfinal game 21-14 in that contest. Before
and they had another one fairly close, like week 3 maybe. Blanchard maybe. No,
I don't.
The only close game I remember was the playoff game.
So that just goes to show you how good they are, and I agree with you on your comments. My comment about Wagner is, not only are they talented, not only are they fast, they also play fast. When you watch them, they play behind their pads as athletic as they are. Some teams look good and they have fast kids and athletic kids, but then when you actually see them after the play starts, they don't play fast. You know what I mean? And this Wagner team, they are one of the fastest playing teams. They run to the ball faster than any team I've seen in a long time. They are just physical. They're fast, extremely well coached. They're confident. And, they just were absolutely dominant this year.
Braden Drake, 32 carries, 247 yards, had 2 touchdowns, and Wagner runs the ball. When they do throw it, they were okay. The Sawyer Jones, the starting quarterback, was 4 of 4 for 46 yards, had 2 touchdowns in the air as well. But, Braden Drake put on a show.
They just don't have to.
Right. So congratulations to the Wagner Bulldogs, again, their 5th state championship in their school history. Speaking of championships, we got to talk Class 5A. The Carl Albert Titans take down Bishop McGinnis. This was a good old 5A2 showdown once again. 5A2 continues to be one of the dominant districts throughout the state of Oklahoma. Of course, Carl Albert with 16 state titles now. Bishop McGinnis has 2 state titles in Class 4A, but they get to the state championship game. They just got that CA logo they can't get past right now. Guthrie had some championships in there. Deer Creek was in 5A2 for a while. Shawnee was in 5A2 for a while. Piedmont made the state semifinals last year.
Was good for a while.
Easton, yeah. So, but Carl Albert 33-21 in a really entertaining ball game. And it came down to the second half. It came down to some Ben Harris big-time plays on the fake punt. As you guys said, probably wasn't a called fake. He just made a great call and a great athletic move to get the first down. And the thing, looking back on this game, and hopefully everyone was able to catch the broadcast that we were able to do, but I went back today and looked at the numbers. In the second half, Carl Albert Bishop McGinnis had the football for like 5 minutes and 12 seconds. The entire second half, those drives that Carl Albert put on was what we come to learn with or see every year in Carl Albert is just long death drives of 17 plays.
And Phil, I think we mentioned at the top of the show that one of the biggest keys was the opposite of that. Bishop McGinnis needed to be the one that played 3 or 4 yards at a time and converted third downs, converted fourth down, kept drives alive like Carl Albert did, and that script flipped on them.
Yeah, I think it flipped. I was of the belief that McGinnis had to score in the 40s to win the game. I didn't think that they could stand up to the Carl Albert offense. And then the other thing we got to point out, Luke Tarman was not 100% through 3/4 of that game. He did something to his ankle or his lower leg in kind of the end of the first quarter, and I was even more impressed with the young man because he just gutted it out and just kept competing and still had a really good ball game. He just wasn't his explosive self that everybody's accustomed to. But Carl Albert, we've said it all year. The class of 5A, it's not close. Now, you go look at their starting lineups. They are graduating a ton of senior football players, a ton. And so I think 5A opens up a little bit next year. I think now you got some Guthries, you got some McGinnis will be back up there again. You got Collinsville, you've got the McAllisters, the Coetas, you've got some of these teams that have an opportunity to get back into the hunt for that gold ball because, I don't care what anybody says. You graduate Ben Harris, a 4-year starter. Oh, by the way, all he did every year in his high school career is throw for over 2,200 yards every season. It's going to be tough to replace him. Their interior lines are graduating a ton of kids. Now they still got probably the best player in 5A coming back.
Yeah.
In big number 45, and Carl Albert will reload. I'm just saying, for me, it's not a foregone conclusion. To be quite frank, the last 3 or 4 seasons going into the season, Chris and I, we'd all talk about it. And I go, well, who's going to finish second to Carl Albert? Because it really wasn't a discussion. I think they were just head and shoulders better than everybody in 5A. And I think going into 2021, it's going to open up. So it should be good. But it was a great ball game. I like the fact that Ben Harris went out the way I think a kid like that should go out, winning a gold ball. I think we were laughing during the broadcast. I said, can you imagine Ben Harris when he's 35 years old? He's got a little pooch to his belly. He's on a business trip talking to his coworkers, and he says, yeah, he said, I won 4 state titles, lost 2 games in my career, quarterback, and they're going to go bull, and then they Google it and go, holy smokes, yeah, you really did that. I mean, because it's so unbelievable. It's so unbelievable to go 52 and 54, win 4 state titles and be a 4-year starter at the position of quarterback and throw for 10,000 yards in your career. I mean, what an unbelievable career for the young man, Ben Harris. So, and he seems like, and I've never seen him do anything cheap or anything that would ever embarrass the Carl Albert brand. I mean, so you got to believe he's a squared away kid, and so you like seeing kids that do it the right way, have success. So I was happy to see that.
Ben Harris, 17 of 21 passing, 195 yards, had the touchdown throw as well. And I think he could have ran the ball a lot more in his career, but Coach Corley didn't have to, playing it safe when you have those 2 running backs and don't want to get him hurt. But, Ben Harris, 52-2 as a Class 5A starting quarterback with 4 state champions goes a long way. Kentrell Bazell, he's going to want all these seniors to come back with him next year, but he'll have a new cast around him. But Kentrell Bazell, offensively and defensively, will be among the top names that we hear next year in recruiting. But Kentrell in the 5A title game, 19 carries, 106 yards, 3 touchdown runs as he averaged almost 6 yards a carry.
And most of them out of the Trojan horse.
Yep.
Yeah, and I don't think there's any question. Bazell, I think he's going to make his living on the defensive side of the ball at the next level, although he's a very good running back. And I'll just simply say this. If the Hunt kid is an SEC school recruit, Bazell's at least that. I mean, he is head and shoulders the best player on that football team. Would you disagree with that?
He was definitely the best runner for sure, and he was one of the leading tacklers defensively. So I don't know how you wouldn't. You can't put him up there.
Yeah.
I mean, it comes down to Bazell or Harris. I mean, I'm sure there would votes would go back and forth because Ben Harris, the way he delivers. He got this starting job because of an injury his freshman year, and then he's got this player, he's got that player. I mean, I could quarterback Carl Albert. They leave, and then it goes more of a running game. They spread it out a little bit more. So Harris and Bazell, I'm sure would, if you talk to Carl Albert fans out there, would get some votes. But especially the ceiling's up there for him on D1 level.
Yeah. But I will say this about Ben Harris too. 2 or 3 different times last Saturday night during we were calling the game as a punter, he impacted the game as a punter, whether it was pinning them down on their inside the 3-yard line on some great punts, or that fake punt that you alluded to earlier, Chris. It was kind of his call. It's one of those judgment calls you get to make when you're a 4-year starting quarterback and your coach trusts you unconditionally. If you see it, go get it. I guarantee you that's the conversation. And because it didn't look like a drawn up fake punt, but all that really did was ice the whole thing. I mean, It was just, he's a kid that rose to the occasion and has to go down as having one of the best high school football careers of any quarterback ever to play 5A football in Oklahoma.
Carl Albert wins it. Final score 33-21 to claim their 16th state championship. All that from 1989 on. And for the second time in their program history, they've won 5 state championships in a row. Just an unbelievable run there. Head coach Coach Corley over there, also 52-2, as he finishes a 4th season at Carl Albert with those 4 state championships. Taking another time out here on the High School Huddle game. We're presented by our good friends over at Generations Church. We still got 3 more games to get to this week, and then we'll wrap up the high school football season. We'll talk about that big matchup between Thomas and Cash in a rematch from earlier this season. This is The High School Huddle presented by Generations Church.
Aspen Roofing is a family-owned roofing company with more than 20 years of experience and achievements across Oklahoma. Aspen Roofing takes pride in the personal service we provide on each job, and we strive to maintain the highest level of quality while offering our customers a reasonable price. It is our commitment to help you understand the process of getting a new roof from start to finish. Call Robbie Hudson for a free roofing estimate at 405-562-0026.
Exxon was founded by two combat-proven veterans to help businesses grow from mediocre to exceptional. We know from experience that your culture and trust throughout the organization drive superior performance. Most business owners focus on the urgent rather than the important. They are just struggling to survive. The team at Exxon helps owners identify challenges, build solutions, and focus on growth. Do you trust your team? Does your team trust you? If not, we can help. We are Exxon.
Hey, you in the third row. Yes, you. When was your last dental checkup? Dr. Louis Turney and his staff provide dental care in a fun, relaxing environment. Still not convinced? Prefer to sleep through your appointment? No problem. We can do that too. Our staff can ensure you have a relaxing experience no matter what. Got kids? Hey, so do we. Come see what all the moms are talking about. Our kid-friendly staff loves to provide care to even the tiniest of teeth. Give us a call today. We've got the whole family covered.
Give Dr. Louis Turney a call at 282-7600.
For centuries, it was a windswept prairie until the run of '89 saw settlers scramble for land and life in a newborn town as Oklahoma's territorial capital, Guthrie. Bank First is loyal to the preservation movement that reclaimed Oklahoma's first state capital. And we're loyal to the banking legacy born at the corner of First and Oklahoma streets. Bank First. Loyal to Oklahoma. Loyal to you.
Today I'm sharing Golden Chick with the world. Are you ready to taste Golden Chick for the first time? 100% tenderloin, that's where the golden tenders come from, marinated for 24 hours.
It is amazing.
Then we also got the rolls, made fresh.
It feels like they were just baked.
You know why it feels that way? They were.
Every time I go, I like to get extra rolls, so I love it.
We are being kind of photobombed right now by the one and only Clucky. Have you met Clucky the chicken? Don't get too starstruck. He's just a regular guy. One taste, and you're golden. He's on Tender. That's like a chicken dating app.
Sometimes you need immediate care and can't get in to see your doctor during regular hours. With Mercy Convenient Care in Guthrie, you can walk in without an appointment and get the medical attention you need at a lower cost and with shorter waiting time than your local emergency room. The Mercy Convenient Care is located at 2919 South Division. For any concerns, call 405-282-6301. Services are provided by Mercy Hospital, Logan County. Choose Guthrie. Choose Mercy.
At Generations Church, we exist to love God, love people, and serve both well. We're a multi-generational, multicultural church that believes in being a light to our city and our region. At Generations, we don't believe that church can be put in a box. We're a church that accepts all people from all walks of life, young, old, rich, and poor, and you will feel welcome at Generations. Join us at 10 a.m. every Sunday at 2524 West Noble in Guthrie, America. You can also join us at generationsguthrie.online.church.
Welcome back to the High School Huddle. Join the huddle yourself and let us know your thoughts by calling our toll-free number at 1-800-897-3678 or simply tweet us by using the hashtag OKHSHuddle. Now let's get back in the huddle and talk high school sports.
Along with Phil Nichols, Casey Porter, I'm Chris Evans. Welcome back to the High School Huddle presented by Generations Church. They are our title sponsor this season. Glad to have them on board for the first time with the High School Huddle. And as this being our final show of the season, a big thank you to all of our other sponsors, including Aspen Roofing, Exxon, Dr. Louis Turney, dentist here in Guthrie, Bank First, Golden Chick, Logan County Mercy Hospital, and, of course, Generations Church. A big thank you. Great group of sponsors. I think all of them were with us last year, with then coming on board with Generations Church. So big thank you to them. We were on 93.7 FM KSBI up until a couple weeks ago. Oklahoma State Cowboy basketball takes over. I guess they think their sport's better than the High School Huddle. But anyway, a big thank you to all of our great sponsors out there. So Oklahoma State Cowboy.
Yeah, They do a great job. I mean, we are lucky. I do want to say with Dr. Turney, not only is he a dentist in Guthrie, more importantly, he's my dentist.
Oh,
he's
my
very,
wife's dentist. He's my children's dentist.
My bride's dentist. Yeah, no, he's very. Chris and I have a couple things in common, Casey. One is that we're both a little. We're a little soft when it comes to going to the dentist. We don't necessarily enjoy it.
And everybody else in the world, right?
And they find a way to do it to where it puts you at ease, all joking aside. So they do a great job, and really do appreciate them, and all of our sponsors, Josh and them as our title sponsors, amazing. And so we are very lucky to have the sponsors we have.
Absolutely. Well, it's time again. 3 more state championships before we put a curtain on the 2020 season. And again, we'll take a look at the state championship list there again. We see all of our state champions that we have spoken about so far, but Class B state championship, Laverne versus Dewar. That's going to be 2:00 ball game at Northwestern Oklahoma State University in Alva for that game. Of course, all 3 of these games can be viewed on the NFHS network. I'm not sure about any radio broadcasts that are out there, but anyway, the Class A state championship game will be 7:00 Saturday night at the University of Central Oklahoma. It's the Cashin Wildcats taking on Thomas Fay Custer. I don't know if I should put Fay Custer on there. I feel like I'm leaving off our friends over in Fay Custer. Apologize for that. The Terriers. It's the Wildcats and the Terriers. Again, 7:00 on Saturday night. And then the Class 2A state championship will be 1:00 on Saturday afternoon at the University of Central Oklahoma as Metro Christian goes for back-to-back state championships. But the old powerhouse, the Washington Ball Club, trying to put an end to that as they will meet up at 1:00 in the Class 2A state championship. Anything? Well, we're going to talk Cash and Thomas, but your thoughts on those deals? And again, it's always great to see. Laverne probably be a favorite there in the Class B game. Yeah. But you're always. There's a lot of teams out there always looking for something different. If someone was hoping Choctaw would win, somebody was hoping Evanston and Fay would win, somebody was hoping McGinnis would win, and Wagner Clinton. They've all done that many, many times. But you look at that Metro Christian Washington game. No one, Washington's. They got a proud tradition, but they're trying to get back in the state championship with the gold ball.
Yeah, well, and last week against Beggs. Go ahead, Phil.
No, you're fine, brother. Go ahead.
Last week against Beggs, Washington just did a fantastic job of possessing the football. And then really just kind of forcing Beggs into some mistakes. They had a big return on an interception. But really what Washington did is they just lined up with tight ends and fullbacks and a battering ram at running back. His name's escaping me right now. I'll get it here in just a second. But they just simply ran the football and played keep away from Beggs. And it was just a fantastic job. Wilk, the quarterback, and Allison, the running back. Phil, I know Allison, if you get to see him play, when you get to see him play, he will be one of your favorite players of all time because he is just a battering ram, tough dude. And they run a absolutely awesome offense to watch. And Beggs had a hard time stopping the run. And because of that, really, Washington controlled the game from an offensive perspective. Beggs made some plays from their offensive. Of course, they have the 2 Division I athletes, the running back that's committed to Oklahoma State, and then Daniels, that the receiver, he's going to play safety in college going to Texas A&M. But they did a good enough job of neutralizing those guys because they had the ball so long that by the time Beggs got the ball, Beggs was a little bit out of rhythm and frustrated, and you could visibly see it. So you talk about one of those, what I call a buzzsaw team, just a team that is just so well coached and they play so hard and they're fundamental and they execute so perfectly on every play. They're just a joy to watch. And so I really cannot wait to see them play Metro Christian this weekend.
Yeah.
Well, and I think Washington's got to be. I mean, Washington, I believe would be the. I don't know if I'd say heavy favorite, but they're a favorite going into that ball game, and for all the reasons you just mentioned.
They won, Metro won state last year. Yeah. I mean, they're
well, the funny thing about high schools, Chris, they graduate kids.
Yeah.
Well, Washington graduated kids last year.
Well, okay. Well, we'll see.
Oh yeah, I'm just saying.
I don't think there's any question. I think if you went out and surveyed 100 people that follow high school football, I bet more people would pick Washington than would pick Metro Christian.
Well, I got to tell you, Washington has definitely had the playoff run of late. Washington, a 26-22 victory over Jones, a 49-22 victory over Adair. By the way, that was on the road at Adair. And then last week's victory over Beggs, 38-22. Metro Christian, a little bit of an easier road, if you will. They did take down Bayan 34-22, took down Marlow 35-31, and then last week really handed to OCS. Final score there was 55-28. So it'll be a fun 2A matchup. Washington, 12 wins a year ago, 10 wins the year before that, 12 before that. So it sounds like it's a team that is bubbling, and obviously they're in the state championship. It's a great season no matter what happens on Saturday, but it's a team that has put themselves in place to win a state championship, kind of much like Wagner. They were a senior-heavy team, and they just all the elements, like if you get ready for Tornado Day, all the elements are there. I think the elements are there for Washington.
You know, the thing about Washington to me when you watch them is that I don't think – I mean, they are a very talented team, don't get me wrong, but I don't think necessarily the talent just jumps off the field to you like maybe a Beggs does whenever you look at the top-end athletes, obviously going to A&M and Oklahoma State. But what you just see is a bunch of just 6-foot, just tough kids that know how to execute, that just know how to play the game of football, that when you put 22 of those kids out there, it makes for a really difficult team to play.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's the thing, right? It's more of what I think most towns get to see. You know, it's we talk about all the kids that are D1 kids on all the classes. The truth is most communities don't have that kid on their team. Most communities don't have a kid that's going to Division I football. You look at Guthrie, there's no Division I football players on that team this year. You look, I mean, you know, you go down the line, there's just not. And that's how most towns are. I mean, most towns have 3 or 4 really, really good high school football players, and then some other good high school football players. But it's rare that you'll see, like in a Beggs team where you got a school that size, have 2 major Division I commits in a school that size. Very, very rare.
Metro Christian. Metro Christian and Washington each going for their second state championship in school history. Metro Christian, again, won it last year in 2019. Washington, their only state championship comeback way back in 1996. I tease this because that's the year I graduated, so it wasn't that way back. But, well, again, that game will be on the NFHS network. Cashin Thomas. Oh, what? We got to go to our last break in. We'll talk about Cashin Thomas after our final timeout of the High School Huddle presented by Generations Church.
At Generations Church, we exist to love God, love people, and serve both well. We're a multi-generational, multicultural church that believes in being a light to our city and our region. At Generations, we don't believe that church can be put in a box. We're a church that accepts all people from all walks of life, young, old, rich, and poor, and you will feel welcome at Generations. Join us at 10 a.m. every Sunday at 2524 West Noble in Guthrie, America. You can also join us at generationsguthrie.online.church.
Hey, you in the third row. Yes, you. When was your last dental checkup? Dr. Lewis Turney and his staff provide dental care in a fun, relaxing environment. Still not convinced? Prefer to sleep through your appointment? No problem. We can do that too. Our staff can ensure you have a relaxing experience no matter what. Got kids? Hey, so do we. Come see what all the moms are talking about. Our kid-friendly staff loves to provide care to even the tiniest of teeth. Give us a call today. We've got the whole family covered.
Give Dr. Lewis Turney a call at 282-7600.
For centuries, it was a windswept prairie until the run of '89 saw settlers scramble for land and life in a newborn town as Oklahoma's territorial capital, Guthrie. Bank First is loyal to the preservation movement that reclaimed Oklahoma's first state capital. And we're loyal to the banking legacy born at the corner of First and Oklahoma Streets. Bank First. Loyal to Oklahoma. Loyal to you.
Today I'm sharing Golden Chick with the world.
Are you ready to taste Golden Chick for the first time?
100% tenderloin. That's where the golden tenders come from. Marinated for 24 hours.
It is amazing.
Then we also got the rolls, made fresh.
It feels like they were just baked.
You know why it feels that way? They were.
Every time I go, I like to get extra rolls, so I love it.
Mm-hmm. We are being kind of photobombed right now by the one and only Clucky. Have you met Clucky the chicken? Don't get too starstruck. He's just a regular guy. One taste, and you're golden. He's on Tender. That's like a chicken dating app.
Sometimes you need immediate care and can't get in to see your doctor during regular hours. With Mercy Convenient Care in Guthrie, you can walk in without an appointment and get the medical attention you need at a lower cost and with shorter waiting time than your local emergency room. The Mercy Convenient Care is located at 2919 South Division. For any concerns, call 405-282-6301. Services are provided by Mercy Hospital, Logan County. Choose Guthrie. Choose Mercy. Aspen Roofing is a family-owned roofing company with more than 20 years of experience and achievements across Oklahoma. Aspen Roofing takes pride in the personal service we provide on each job, and we strive to maintain the highest level of quality while offering our customers a reasonable price. It is our commitment to help you understand the process of getting a new roof from start to finish. Call Robbie Hudson for a free roofing estimate at 405-562-0026.
Exxon was founded by two combat-proven veterans to help businesses grow from mediocre to exceptional. We know from experience that your culture and trust throughout the organization drive superior performance. Most business owners focus on the urgent rather than the important. They are just struggling to survive. The team at Exxon helps owners identify challenges, build solutions, and focus on growth. Do you trust your team? Does your team trust you? If not, we can help. We are Exxon.
Welcome back to the High School Huddle. Join the huddle yourself and let us know your thoughts by calling our toll-free number at 1-800-897-3678 or simply tweet us by using the hashtag OKHSHuddle. Now let's get back in the huddle and talk high school sports.
Final segment here on the High School Huddle. Welcome back. Phil Nichols, Casey Porter, Chris Evans with you as we dissect the final game of the state championship on Saturday. It'll be the final game of the season, and my, oh my, what a good one it will be. It appears to be that way anyway. It's a rematch of earlier this season between Cashion and Thomas Fay Custer. Cashion won the earlier meeting, seemed like it was 2 years ago, but Cashion won that game 28-7, and it promises to be a fun Class A state championship game on Saturday night, 7 o'clock at the University of Central Oklahoma. Of course, Cashion had the game that Phil predicted. He predicted a 7-6 ball game. He picked a lot of defense. He said a lot of defense on the field that night, boys. I know Pawhuska scores 90 points a game and Cashion scores 91 points a game, but look for the defense to really take over. And boy, you were right, Phil.
Well, thanks for teeing that up for me, Chris. I mean, I put a lot of homework into that and broke down a lot of film, and I think I even said that Pawhuska would be inside the 15 3 times and wouldn't score. So I mean, I was dead on the other night. But no, I don't think there's a person that's followed either one of these teams that ever dreamed Pawhuska Cashion would end 7-6. But this week, as you alluded to, this is a rematch, and that brings all the stuff that everybody likes to say that's really involved in high school football, how it's tough to beat a team twice in the same year. Of course, I always say, unless you're actually really better than the other team, and then it's not quite as tough. But I think there's, going into this ball game, I think most people had Ringling and Cashion throughout the year, 1 and 2. In A.
Rematch of last year's state title.
Rematch last year's state title. And I think a lot of people thought that's how it would probably end up. Of course, everybody would say, well, hold on. These are two great semifinals games. And boy, were we right. We were surprised by the Pawhuska Cashion score. And that was a pick'em game, just like the Ringling Thomas game was, which I believe ended 28-27 or 27-26.
Yeah,
it was
28-27.
It was a 1 point, 28-27. So this is what you would expect. If you're the Cashion fans, you got to be sitting there going, okay, please God, don't do this to us again. We've been here so many times. We've been close so many times. It's just, and I think that, you got to be telling yourself, okay, this has to be the year. We got a rematch with the team that we beat by 3 touchdowns to beginning of the season. Everything's kind of fallen in that way. They've kind of been a team that's had a little bit of fairy dust sprinkled on them. Just kind of everything goes their way. It seems like when they're down, they find a way to come back and win. A lot of off the field stuff that's really galvanized the community with the unfortunate passing of assistant coach Cochran's wife while delivering their beautiful baby this year earlier or late in the summer. So just all the things that kind of end where it just feels like if you're cashing that it has to end with us getting the gold ball, right? But then you go, okay, well that game was week what? It was early in the season.
3 or 4.
Been a lot of football played between now and then. This Thomas team just beat the defending state undefeated champs, which had to have had a 20-some game winning streak going
on the road.
So it's
got
shaping
behind,
up to
2
be
touchdowns twice.
Yeah, it's shaping up to be one of those games that obviously anything could happen and probably will. I look for it to be one of the absolute best games of the entire championships weekends over the last 3 weeks. Should be an incredible way to put a bow on the 2020 state championship games.
And Casey, before we get to the state championship game, it's always fun to have look at the final 4 teams, the 2 state semifinal games, how competitive those were. You don't get that in every class. You get, especially in B and C, and then there were some blowouts in 2A. But these 2 games really lived up to the hype. And it's the 4 teams that we thought that could be there, and they did get there. And what semifinal games we had?
Yeah, no doubt about it. When you look at last weekend, it was 2 points between the 2 games.
Yeah.
That was the difference in the 2 games. And then if you go back to the quarterfinal game that Thomas had, they won that game by 1 point as well. So they've won their last 2 games by 1 point. And, so that's a team that, boy, you talk about just tough as nails. I mean, they have been trained how to play close games. They do not panic. When you go on the road to the defending state champions, and as crazy as this sounds, just simply describing Ringling as defending state champions is almost an insult to them, because they've been defending state champions a million different times during their program's career, correct? So to just put it down into singular terms, that doesn't do justice for them. To go into Ringling, get down 13-0, okay, kind of recover a little bit, score a touchdown, 13-7, and then go down 20-7 in the second half and come back and win that game on the road. That's all you need to know about Thomas. Faye Custer. Let me put the Faye Custer.
Yes.
Chris. Let me put the Faye Custer there, right? That's all you need to know about them. Having said that, if you look at the other side of that, Cashin. You know how many games Cashin's played this year?
The max.
15.
Yeah.
15 games. You know how many times they've scored over 40?
I'm going to guess
13.
13. Okay.
13 games. Okay. And last weekend was one of them that they didn't. And, I know that the 7-6 score looks like there was a lot of defense played last week, but Bryce Drummond and Pawhuska had, I guarantee you, 500 and some odd yards in that game. And Cashin just did a perfect job. They had that little 3-man line and 8 men in the secondary, where they had the Malik Gibson receiver for Pawhuska double covered all day. So literally they were in the mother of all what you call bend it but don't break defenses, if you will, and let Pawhuska get down to about the 10, 15-yard line. They knew Pawhuska doesn't kick field goals. Pawhuska doesn't even punt. Okay, so they knew that the kicking game was not going to win that game for Pawhuska. So they knew once the Pawhuska got down to about the 15, 20-yard line in the scoring zone, all they had to do was tighten up at that point, which Cashin came up with 5 or 6 blitzes at the absolute perfect time to get Pawhuska behind the chains when Pawhuska was at, say, the 15-yard line on 2nd and 6 or at the 9-yard line. Pawhuska had a chance to score inside the 10-yard line at the end of the first half and then their first possession of the second half to go up 2 scores. And when they couldn't do it, and then when they didn't get the 2-point conversion after their touchdown, they didn't even try to kick the extra point. You kind of knew that by them not going up 2 scores and leaving Cashin around, that at some point, as good of a program as Coach Shackelford has, as good of coaches as Cashin has, with Ben Howard and Harrell at running back, you knew that Cashin was going to punch through the door at some point. That was a game that I will promise you, you talk about Cashin going, whew, this has got to be our year. We finally made it. Kind of like Carl Albert in the semifinals when they went to Collinsville. I will promise you, Cashin left Pawhuska, Osage County last weekend, so relieved that game is over with and they're still playing that they can't see straight. Your reward is a Thomas Fay Custer team, one of the most legendary programs in the state of Oklahoma, that just went on the road, got down 2 touchdowns twice, came back and defeat the defending state champions in Ringling. So here's the question. Which team is going to be able to emotionally recover from what happened last week the best? And so it's going to be an interesting matchup. The quarterback for Cashin, Ben Howard, fun kid to watch. They don't throw the ball a whole lot, but I'll tell you what, he can throw the ball, but it's whenever they want to throw it. Does that make sense to you? So they can pretty much do whatever they want offensively. They've scored 40 points or more 13 times out of the 15 games they've played. This is going to be a tall chore for Thomas Fay Custer.
Yeah, Thomas Fay Custer, again, losing to Cashin earlier this year, 28-7. Coach Ward, a great coaching matchup, Coach Ward versus Coach Shackelford. And I believe Coach Ward's son, the quarterback, a young quarterback, played that game, but he's had, 8, 9, 10 more games to play since then. So I'm sure the maturity factor has gotten a lot better for him. As again, you look at this strong program behind Thomas, 10 state championships. Their last state championship coming in 2014. Then you look at the Cashin Wildcats, 3 state championships, 77, 79, and 81. They've been there so close, as Phil alluded to. Does the close game last week, getting back to the state championship, is this something that the Cashin players have been looking for and we got to get there? Or do you go, oh, here we are again, we're good, but we're not lucky? Does any of that mind games come in?
Yeah, I think maybe more for the adults that are attached to the program.
Yeah, right.
I think the kids, if we could have been flies on the wall on the bus ride back, I guarantee you Cashin got on there and they didn't think they got lucky. They got on there and they said, man, we played terrible. That's the worst game we played, and we still found a way to beat Pawhuska. I mean, I think that's how kids think. Yeah. I think these kids are. I think these, you talk about the Harmon kid at quarterback. I mean, it's in the bloodline over there, evidently, being a Harmon and being a quarterback at Cashin. And I don't think that these Cashin kids are overwhelmed by this moment one iota. I think if anything, they're hungry. They're probably playing with a pretty big chip on their shoulder, like they have been most of the year. I think thinking that they should have won the state title last year over Ringling. So I think this is a day they've been looking forward to. They're anxious to get on the field, and we'll see what happens. I think if anything, the hangover is more likely because of the way the game, coming back from behind, doing it that way to win by 1. I think if there's a team that is more likely to have a little bit of a hangover, I think it's Thomas. I think because just the way it went down, I mean, it was you go on the road playing the defending state championship, down 2 touchdowns. That's such and you come back and win. That's such an emotional high. It's almost like they had their championship week last week, right? Now I'm not saying that's how the Thomas kids feel at all. I don't know any of the Thomas kids, but I think if there was a scenario where one team might be feeling the way you described, I think it might be the Thomas kids more so than the Cashin.
Yeah, that's a good way to look at that. Of course, the best player
guys, before you go on, that was the second week in a row they had won by 1 point. So double time that, the sentiment that you're talking about.
Yeah, beat Pawnee the week before, Tonkwall the week before, and their run to the state championship game. But the best player on the field as far as next level, Aiden Kelly, defensive lineman, he's committed to the Oklahoma State Cowboys. So he'll be the best player. Everyone will be watching him. But I gotta be honest. I'm looking forward to watching that Cashion offense against Kelly. See how they can do.
No doubt.
Well, and I think to that point, I think what we were just discussing, guys, I think the Cashion kids are probably furious with themselves that they somehow only scored 7 points. I mean, this is a group of kids, Casey said it earlier, 13 of the 15 ball games, they've been over 40 points. They have an expectation that they're going to put up at least 35, 40 points a game. I mean, and so they're probably madder than Haiti at themselves and probably feel like they didn't play their best football. So I think those kids are going to come out feeling like they got something to prove after last week's game. And so it'll be interesting, but two great high school football teams, two great traditions, two great coaching staffs. I can't think of a better way to put a bow on the year than that ball game being the final game of the season.
Can you imagine Aiden Kelly tackling Ben Harmon and Harrell and all the running backs for Cash? That's going to be a fun game to watch.
It might take a couple.
Entertaining.
It might take a couple of Wildcats offensive linemen to maybe keep him intact a little, if you can do that.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see the strategy there. I do know. Thomas lost to him earlier, 28-7. I don't think Thomas comes into this game intimidated at all. That game 3-4 weeks ago, we've had 10, 11 weeks of football to get better, and we're looking forward to this opportunity of winning our 11th state title.
Well,
Thomas Fay Custer, I'll let you finish this, Phil, but Thomas Fay Custer does not know what the word intimidation means.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we were covering a game in the past, Chris, and we saw a team just get the wood laid to them. And then we saw some text messages. I mean, 5 minutes after the game, the kids that just got absolutely destroyed were rattling off all the reasons why they were better than the team that just beat them by 5 touchdowns.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, kids this age do not look at it that way. They don't believe it. That's one of the beautiful things about high school sports is the kids that are participating, they don't believe in all this stuff. They truly believe that they're going to win every game they ever play. It was that way when we played sports. It's always been that way. You don't ever go into a game assuming you're going to not win. Right. I mean, the thought of that's crazy. And so it's I mean, high school sports for me is the greatest level of sports in the entire world because it's pure and the people participating truly they still have dreams and aspirations and they're trying to work towards something and they're trying to accomplish something that's with their lifelong buddies, especially these kids from, Cashion or from Thomas or from, the Pahuskas of the world. I mean, these are kids that all have grown up together for the most part. I mean, they started kindergarten or preschool together, right? They've met a couple times. So they are extremely close. And this is an opportunity for these kids in their minds. There's never been a bigger deal in their lives than what they're going to experience Saturday. So, a lot of pressure, but a lot of excitement for both clubs. And I think it's going to be a great ball game.
No doubt.
Hey, Phil, I got to ask you. One question.
Yeah.
If your running back is also your middle linebacker, is that just right up your alley?
Well,
Caden Harrell, 6'1", 225 pounds.
Considering you just described me in high school, yes, that's right up my alley. I mean, that's I mean, go ahead, Chris.
Well, they didn't even have face masks back then. Yeah, they didn't have face masks. That's so
obvious. But to me, I love that power football. I love it when you know that, okay, they're going to go off tackle and the defense knows it and the offense knows it. The people selling the popcorn knows it. Everybody knows it. And it's just about who's the bigger old boy, who's going to step up and win that individual battle on that play, right? To me, that's great. That's great football. I know it's boring. I know, I mean, I get all that. I know everybody loves to see the ball thrown and that's sexy and that's fun and everybody gets excited. But me being a purist, I love 3 yards and a cloud of dust mixed in with some snobber knocking tackles and that's what a big special teams play. If I can get those things in a football game, I'm going to go to bed a happy boy that night.
Here's some real quick numbers. Ben Harmon, 210 for 313 attempts, 4,000 passing yards, 55 touchdowns to only 10 interceptions. And those numbers are awesome. And we'll have a lot of those numbers on the broadcast on Saturday. But I got to tell you, perhaps the most impressive number is Cashton has getting ready to play 16 games in a COVID season. Unbelievable. Of those 15 games they played this year, 9 of them have been at home. So the concession stand has sold a lot of popcorn. Well, I don't know if you can sell popcorn or not because of the COVID deal, but they sold a lot of boxed candy. Yeah, that's a good year for a Gate.
I'll tell you,
that's a good year for a Gate.
Tell you how crazy it's been. Teams scrambling to play. You mentioned playing 16 games. They actually played Stillwater JV. I mean, doing whatever they could just to get games in.
And bumped them.
One more number. Caden Harrell, you guys were just talking about him. 1,547 rushing yards, 28 touchdowns. He's only averaging 9.2 yards a carry, so that's almost a first down.
How big of a boy are you, Phil?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, if he commits to some off-season training, he might get some decent numbers next year. But I think that, I think for me too, the thing that's cool about this, and we talk about this, it's awesome when you have communities that are in these games, because if you want to see 2 ghost towns, go to Thomas and go to Cashin on Saturday night, because there's not going to be anybody in town. They're all going to be at UCO. And I mean, it's just, to me, that's what makes high school football fun. With no disrespect meant to the Carl Alberts of the world or the McGinnises, but always seems to be those kind of teams that really don't have a community feel to them. Very small attendance typically compared to the other games. And again, I'm not getting on to them. It's just you don't bring the additional fans that you normally see in these community games. I mean, where it's just, I mean, heck, I've been getting called out on messages because we evidently didn't build up Cashin well enough when we were doing the 5A game the other night, and I smile when I get that, because they're just all in. They love their Wildcats. They love their football team. They're committed to it. And I think that's awesome.
Well, we see them at the football games. We're going to see a lot of 1977 Letterman jackets, 1979 Letterman jackets, 1981 Letterman jackets. They'll definitely be out there. But again, let's go one final time. Let's go over the schedule this week. Final weekend of high school football. Class B football. Laverne will take on Dewar again at 2:00 at Northwestern Oklahoma State University in Alva. The Class 2A state championship game will be at 1:00. It'll be Metro Christian taking on Washington, that game at the University of Central Oklahoma. And then the final game of the season will be the Class A state championship game between Cashin and Thomas Fay Custer. 7:00 will be the kickoff again at the University of Central Oklahoma. And congratulations to those winning teams. We won't be able to say that next week, but it's been a fun show. It's been a fun season, and there's a lot to talk about. More recruiting still going on. There's still some recruits out there that haven't said where they're going to go, but always a fun time of year. And now, after this week, we're going to see how far we can get with basketball and wrestling as this COVID deal. It's amazing. It has not even been around for 1 year yet. March 12th, I remember the day well, at the State Fair Arena getting ready for the state basketball tournament.
Feels like I was 12 years old when this kicked off. I mean, it's just been nuts. And we've talked about this, but just a real quick deal before we sign off. Casey, Chris, and I are driving down to go to set up for the state basketball tournament at the Big House, and the deal breaks about the player from the Utah Jazz and how they were canceling. And I looked at Chris. I said, "This is so stupid. Everybody's so overreacted to all this. This is stupid. This is dumb. This is dumb."
Casey, for the record, he was saying other words too. But
I might have been
slamming the chair that I was sitting in too, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
Well, there's a lot of hand gestures going on when I was doing all this, to the point where Chris turned the channel.
I had to turn the radio off.
He said, "You're getting so worked up."
We hadn't talked to each other for about 2 or 3 months this summer. The dead time of the year. You call and say, "Hey, what's up, bud?" I said, "I'm trying not to get COVID. What are you doing?"
Yeah, exactly. So now hindsight, we're sitting there, and obviously all the tragedy and the loss of life and just everything that's occurred. I mean, it does. It seems like it's been a decade that we've been in this, but I will say this: I'm awful proud of how, at least the people in my circle, how they're conducting themselves and trying to do the best they can. Everybody's trying to do the best they can. I think Tina Smedley said on the open mic podcast earlier, Chris, this week that, we just all need to try to be nice with each other. Just try to be patient, try to be nice. It's tough. It's tough on everybody. So, and being mean isn't going to make it any better. So,
no. And also,
so
we might as well throw this one out here as we run short on time. Was to say, congratulations for getting the football season in. It was, there are a lot of cancellations and last-second cancellations. I know a few teams were on buses when they had to stop, and the OSSA had to switch things up 2 or 3 times, ultimately letting every team into the playoffs, as it was going to be a nightmare on finishing. These teams didn't play. This team is better, but they played 2 teams that were lesser, and they're going to finish higher in the district. I mean, they're there for about 3 hours. McGinnis was going to win the district championship in 5A2 despite losing to Carl Albert. I mean, that was the scenario that could have happened. So you take all those scenarios out. I mean, it was still a scenario, but then you just let everybody in, and it played out well. Got an extra week of high school football.
Yeah. Well, and I want to say this too. And we've got, all 3 of us have a friend that's leading. Dr. Mike Simpson, that is it chairman this year? Is that correct, Chris?
He's the board president.
Board president, and I want to publicly just tell everybody, I think that Dr. Simpson's done a tremendous job, as has everybody with the OSSA this year, managing an impossible situation, and it is an impossible situation. I mean, but when you think about it. It's Chris, you asked the question earlier, if somebody would have said, hey, you could get half the high school football games in this year, would you have taken it? And I said, oh, heck yeah. Because in August, I thought, we're not going to have football this year. And I remember calling Chris Casey going, what are we going to do if there's no football? I mean, what are we going to do? Because it's became such a big part of our life. So I just want to thank Doc Simpson for his leadership and the whole OSAA staff and all the people that serve in that capacity. They've done a great job. They've became targets a few times with some of our press that I think was completely uncalled for, was nothing more than a hit piece. But that's my opinion. Phil Nichols, 405-420-1311. But I think it's important that we understand that this whole organization has kept sports alive in the state of Oklahoma for our kids, for the fans, for the schools, and they need to be commended for that.
Absolutely. Well said. And that's how we're going to sign off. Case, thanks for joining us. And Phil, thanks as always. And we're going to do it one more time. We're going to go to UCO, watch 2 great high school football games, and call it a season and get ready for indoor sports. It's cold.
We're excited.
It's cold, starting time to move indoors.
Well, it is time to move indoors, but you act like you're outdoors when we do football. So, I mean, come on.
Let's not deceive our viewers, Chris. Broadcasting football games is an indoor event for you, okay?
Yeah, well, I only get 2 meals in the press box a day. It's kind of
Hey, who on this broadcast has ever frozen their butt off on the sideline doing a show with Chris Evans? Please raise your hand. That's right. That would be me. The old guy. They send the old guy that doesn't have any filling below his knees down there because it feels. I've had a good run. I mean, it's it could be all over.
It's all good.
Big deal.
All right, this show's
all good.
over.
Well, look forward to this Saturday.
Absolutely. For Casey Porter, for Phil Nichols, I'm Chris Evans. This has been the High School Huddle presented by Generations Church.
This has been the High School Huddle on Hot 93.7 FM. Be sure to tune in next week as we break down more of the top games and news from across the state of Oklahoma.